Hello and thanks a lot for joining us on the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Kemi Fola-Adeyemo. Today on the program, senior lawyers hit Malami over claims that National Assembly cannot summon the president, this over insecurity, as well as National Assembly also beginning legislation to enforce the use of card readers in every election. It's also vowing to pass a new electoral act by 2021, March specifically, as well as manufacturers, businesses relying on unofficial forex market as scarcity worsens. Later on the program, Chief of Army Staff's annual conference cancelled over COVID-19 scare in Abuja as Army General dies of coronavirus. I'll be hanging out today with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Mayor Akipelu. If you're ready, Journalist Hangout starts now. Well, let's dive right into the discussions for today. Botched appearance of President Muhammadu Buhari before the National Assembly to brief lawmakers about rising insecurity in Nigeria is ruffling feathers across the country. This comes as Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, had declared the invitation by the lawmakers as illegal, since security matters remain the exclusive preserve of the executive arm of government. But prominent senior lawyers have faulted this claim by the AGF that the National Assembly had no powers to summon President Buhari. Some legal experts are of the view that it is within the purview of the lawmakers to summon anyone and investigate any matter. Gentlemen, BKO and Mayor, welcome to the program this evening. And that is our first topic for discussion. BKO, where do you stand in this debate?
First and foremost, I have to say that in Nigeria we like drama too much. We like drama so much on issues that we do not really need to put so much accent on them. Because of politics, we put so much accent on those matters. And clearly, the kind of barbarization of the presidency that we saw during Obasanjo's time is what we are seeing now, whereby people do not think that it makes sense to even challenge the president on any matter. You know, the Obasanjo was referred to as Baba that time. You know, he was seen as a rarefied figure. Therefore, don't attempt to ruffle him up. Don't attempt to ask him questions. This is clearly what I'm saying now. And even when we talk about people who have elevated circumstances to a disturbing level, even governors, as we have seen, governors are also part of them. Indeed. Because, see, they never said they were going to summon the president. It was an invitation. They said, let's invite him. They didn't use the word summon because summon is a command. They knew that if they were to talk about summoning the president, it will bring problems. Because if you summon a person, right, the National Assembly, if they summon someone and that person doesn't show up, the Inspector General of Police has the mandate to effect the person's arrest and then ensure that that person is brought before the National Assembly. But the president enjoys constitutional immunity. So if you summon him and he doesn't show up, what do you then do? So what those guys said was, we would like to invite the president to come and brief us. And the president was warm to the idea. The way he interacted with Speaker Gbajabiamila suggested I was ready to honor the invitation. It was called an invitation, meaning that he could decline if he wanted. Because it's an invitation, not a summon. It's not like summoning someone to court or say you must come and you must show up before me. No, that is not the issue. So Attorney General Malami going to the point of quoting the Constitution, Section 218, subsection 1 and other, it's absolutely unnecessary because it was an invitation. They didn't say summon. So for him, he was saying that the National Assembly has no constitutional power to contemplate a situation where the president will be summoned by the National Assembly on operational use of the armed forces. They didn't say they were summoning him. So there was no need for Malami to go on quoting all of this. Nobody told him that it was a summon. They said, invitation to explain to us why security is this bad in our country and what he was doing to mitigate things.
All right.
So the resort to quoting the Constitution...
you didn't feel it was necessary?
No, it's not necessary. They didn't say someone, they said invite.
And Senator Omo Agege seems to have also told the line of AGF Malami, where he's quoted as saying the National Assembly simply lacks the powers to summon the president. But that hasn't stopped the debate in legal circles. The likes of senior advocates, Falano, and so on, have also waded into the debate. What do you make of, this explanation that BKO has made vis-a-vis, the debate we are seeing?
Let me see. I remember that when we discussed, when the invitation was extended to the president, we discussed it on this program. And I said I was not excited about it. Now the president accepted the invitation and promised to appear and address the National Assembly. I said I was very excited because I said that the president was just trying to humor members of the National Assembly, that he will not do that address. You understand? Because we have a president who does not care about the people that he governs. We have to beg the president to address us most times. During the crisis, during the last crisis, practically everybody was appealing to the president to address the nation for something that he should have done, that is taking that he should have done. And I think that, like Bajide said, the Attorney General is just trying to work towards a decision that has been made, because the president was not summoned. The National Assembly are aware of the fact that they don't have the power to summon the president, so they didn't summon the president. So he was invited. And I think that the members of the National Assembly has the right to invite the president to talk to the people of Nigeria through their representatives what he's doing about the security of the people that he governs. In democracy that we copied, in America, where we copied this presidential system of government, the State of the Union address is a major event where the president addressed the Congress, telling the people of America the state of the nation through their representatives. So, if the state of security in Nigeria has worsened to this state, and the representatives of the people believe that it is important for them to invite the president to share with them what he's doing to protect the lives and property of Nigerians. And some people believe that that is not important enough. It shows what we think about democracy, because the president and those in power holds that power on behalf of the people.
Yeah, but well, BKO said earlier on that he accepted the invitation, and then he also has the right to withdraw his acceptance to address lawmakers. That is also another bit that
I didn't say he has the right to withdraw.
To withdraw, because that was even what I wanted
to accept in the first place.
But now,
and he accepted. Even his aide already tweeted the date
that he would come to address.
Yes.
So how?
But some politicians got involved, beginning from the NEC meeting of the APC. That was where some of the politicians, the governor was said to have been saying that Gbajabiamila was not in control of the House because they wanted the president to address the people. So, because they invited the president, you are interpreting that to mean that the speaker has lost his capacity to run the House. I mean, how do we reason in this way? And I've seen the Attorney General trying to give the impression that the president has the final say on security. This is falsehood. I don't have to be a lawyer to know that if the president wants to impose a state of emergency in any part of Nigeria today, he must get the go-ahead from the Senate. Yeah. That's what the law says.
Right.
And if we need to quote that law, I will say, so if he has the final say, what is the essence of that provision? That he must go through them. Today, if the president appoints service chiefs he must go to the National Assembly to have those service chiefs cleared.
Indeed.
Yet you are giving us the impression that on security, the president is the alpha and omega, that he has the final say, he cannot be questioned, and Attorney General. These are simple issues about the law that you don't need to be trained in Harvard Law School to know that. It's written in clear English for any educated person to understand. I didn't go to law school, but I understand that this it does not have the final say on security matters. There are issues about security that the president has to take before the National Assembly. When we're talking about the state of, what's it called, the state of emergency, all that he can do at this stage is that state of emergency that you can detain people for 90 days without trial, which was the sort of state of emergency that Goodluck Jonathan introduced in Borno State. On every occasion, if you are to extend it, you must go to the National Assembly. So the president, in the real sense, does not have the final say on security matters. There are issues of security that has to go before the National Assembly.
Correct.
All right, but let me compare, BKO's analysis so far now with, this particular issue now that has brought up, a lot of arguments for and against. The fact that the president, said he would heed the invitation of the House of Representatives, and the fact that, he ended up not showing up, that has also, been weighed. Why would the president, give Nigerians, that kind of feeling that he would come to address security issues and then not do so after all?
Because that's the hallmark of this government. This government is not decisive in anything. We have a president that takes all the time in the world to take decisions. We have a president that is not, that they don't sit down and articulate their positions properly. Because if the members of the House of Representatives invites the president to say, we want you to come and address us concerning security situation in the country, the president should be able to sit down with his security team or with members of his in the presidency and take a decision whether he wants to accept or not. So he can tell them to say, look, based on these provisions or things that we have done, I have not accepted that invitation. But we have a president that doesn't look at things properly, that they don't take decisions, it's not well thought out. They took a decision that we have accepted. He told them there, and the people and members, when he had a meeting with them, he told them he accepted. They came out and said, oh, the president have accepted to address us, but we are leaving the time and when he will come to him.
Yes.
Let me put you on hold. We have our first caller now. Welcome, Joshua, all the way from Abuja.
Yes, good evening to you. Babajide, good evening to you. And Akin Pelumi.
Thanks.
Yes, first of all, I want to say that although the president is just like your whole this thing said that the president don't have the people in heart. We should not conclude like that the president don't have the people in heart. Let's correct that. Then secondly, Babajide, this issue of Attorney General of the Federation, I think the president, this will be a history for the president to be the first president to honor invitation to the National Assembly. Will make history. I wonder why the president will change his mind at this particular time when people needed him to speak. It's very painful the way they are playing politics with these issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. Can you wrap up that?
Yes, what I was saying is that if the president, if the things are well thought out, the president had the prerogative to say, look, I am not going to accept this invitation. But typical way they do things, the president accepted. Members of the House of Rep, the executive, the members of the House of Rep had a meeting with him to formally inform him of the invitation, came out and informed Nigerians to say the president have accepted and that they were allowed to decide when and how he will come. The president now fixed a date. It was announced that the president will address at this particular time. Then some people came and said, no, you can't do that. And he accepted. And he said, oh, I'm not going again.
No,
shows,
we have not even heard him say I'm not
okay, it's not that I said I'm not going, but he didn't
has
show.
not told anybody
Yes.
that he didn't say a word. He didn't say a word. But it's
But
clear.
it was confirmed that he wouldn't.
No, he has not said a word about it. So you don't know whether in future he could still go. But clearly, these fellows have managed to embarrass the president. And the president needs to understand that even within his administration, there are fifth columnists. He has faced this kind of situation before. President Buhari, as a military head of state, he had people around him that he thought were loyal to him. But they were fifth columnists. People bent on embarrassing him. People who hate him but pretend that they like him. You know, the way Bob Marley sang that song. Some who hate you pretend they love you now. So they hate him but pretend that they are loyal to him. But they do things that end up embarrassing the president. He made up his mind to go. He wasn't scared to go. And then an attorney general comes and starts quoting the law about this issue has nothing to do with the portions that he's quoting, because it wasn't a summon. It was an invitation. It was clear. They extended an invitation. So why are you quoting the law to us, Section 218 and all that? So the truth is, the people who manage the president, they need to change their ways. And the president shouldn't allow just any politician, any overrated politician to just come and simply give the impression that, look, in these matters, they are more knowledgeable than everyone. Therefore, it is their opinion that the president should accept. He has seen that before. They did it to him. Awolowo's house was ransacked. His library was turned upside down. When we interviewed Buhari in 1993, he said he never sent anybody to Awolowo's house. From within his government, people made up their minds to eventually remove him from power, eventually do a palace coup against him. They were the ones taking all those actions that will make the president to be hated. And they know that once the people of the Southwest begin to hate the president, for example, because of the fact that there are so many media barons around here, that it will be terrible for the president. He said he did not know that they were going to Awolowo's house. He never sent anybody there, and they didn't tell him. They just went, did it. And the head of state then, Muhammadu Buhari, was embarrassed. And there are still people with that kind of nature, even in his administration today, who take steps designed ab initio to embarrass the president and then masquerade as friends. Behind them, behind the president, some of this, the conversations that they have, if you were privileged to listen to them, if he had a gun, he would shoot some of them. Because these guys, they do not like him. Right.
BKO, let's bring in Olawale. He's right here in Lagos. Good evening. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, good evening, journalist Hangout.
Good evening, sir.
My encyclopedia and article. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes. I'm going to approach the matter from this particular angle. Yes, I'm approaching the matter from this angle. The people of Nigeria voted for President Muhammadu Buhari. The people of Nigeria equally voted for our representatives at the House of Reps and Senate. Myself, yourself, BKO, and Akipelu do not have direct access to the president, but our representatives can express our views, our feelings, and so on and so forth to the president. So therefore, they now invited the president. I'm very happy you have overcharged the issue of summons or invitation. He was invited, and he has the opportunity, singular opportunity which he has lost, to attend to the invitation of the House of Rep members.
All right, thank you very much for your points. Mayor, your final take on this, especially with the angle that BKO took us through earlier. What do you stand on?
The president is not decisive. The president is the leader of a team. Those who work for him and his advisors are advising him. The buck stops at his table. So if the president gives his word to members of the representatives of the people to say the invitation you sent to me I've agreed, I've accepted, and I'm going to address you on the security situation of the country. I think it doesn't speak well for the president to not to honor what he has, the commitment he gave to members of the House of Rep.
All right, gentlemen, on that note now, we'll take a breather now and return with more on Journalist Hangout. Stay with us.
No matter what's going on in the world, there's one place you can go to stay up to date with the latest global news. The BBC News World Service app helps you go behind the headlines and make sense of what's going on around the world. And with a call to listen button, you can listen to live radio without using your data. Download the BBC News World Service app and start listening today.
SGL Farms is offering an excellent opportunity to profit big during the current dry season. This is the time of the year when most farmers rest, but the motivated farm can boost operations during dry season to take advantage of much higher market prices. Invest now in our rice farm and earn a full 50% profit in just 4 months instead of the usual 6 months. We are currently offering mop-up deals that let investors take out standing plots. Some of our investors experienced setbacks with COVID-19 and the current recession. They are unable to meet their installment payment obligation. This gives you a unique opportunity to cover available plots for 50% profit in just 4 months. Visit our website at www.sglfarms.com or call us now to discuss and invest. Call or WhatsApp on 0905 500 8800. SGL Farms. Invest in agriculture. Grow your money.
With us on TVC News. Well, maintaining the sanctity of the ballot in elections has been a Herculean task. A game-changing technology to sanitize voting, that's the card reader, is still yet to receive legal backing. But Senate President Ahmed Lawan has assured Nigerians that the National Assembly will pass the Electoral Act Amendment Bill into law by March 2021. And he gave this assurance at a public hearing on the repeal of the Electoral Act of 2010 and the enactment of the 2020 Electoral Act in Abuja on Wednesday. He says that the National Assembly would work hard to make this possible so that the amended Electoral Act, which will incorporate the compulsory use of the card reader, will become operational before the 2023 elections. Let's share the story with you.
Another ray of hope for electoral reforms in the country. This comes after a similar bill was rejected, crushed and thrown out in one of the defining moments of the 8th National Assembly. The joint public hearing is critical in ensuring the new legislation strengthens electoral institutions and paves the way for the conduct of credible, free, fair elections in Nigeria. For now, the ball is still in the court of the National Assembly as they work to earn the trust and cooperation of the public and other stakeholders advocating for electoral reforms.
We remain committed to all the issues we have considered important in our legislative agenda, and without anybody holding us responsible, we have achieved most of those things that we have set as targets. And the Electoral Act Amendment is one of those targets that, by the grace of God, will work so hard to pass before the end of the first quarter of next year.
This new law guiding the country's elections will use technology to enhance transparency and create a voting system that aligns with global best practices.
The amendment is an insertion which states that the funds for general elections shall be released to the Commission not later than 180 days to the date appointed for the elections and after the word Commission in that section.
Some key aspects of the bill that will be amended include limiting campaign expenses, the financial autonomy of INEC, electoral voting, and other issues.
Also commendable the decision of the National Assembly to repeal and reenact, and as both chairmen have stated, both laws that exist at this present time have a lot of confusion with several amendments. So I think it's commendable.
Civil society groups working to strengthen the electoral process want a National Electoral Commission Act 2020 that will strengthen INEC. TJ Swahili TV News, Abuja.
We're still on the walk now to perfect or near perfect elections during the cycle, of course, in Nigeria. But Bikio, what do you make of if and when we get to have, card readers being a compulsory component of our future elections?
Well, that is because we refuse to pass the electoral bill into law before the 2019 election. We now have a situation in which is still the 2010 Electoral Act number 6 that we are talking about in 2020. That's the one that Goodluck Jonathan gave his assent a few hours before the 2015 election. It's unfortunate that the president didn't give his assent at that time, given the fact that it took tremendous effort of INEC, of National Assembly members, and days of public hearing to put together some of the provisions that were embedded in that electoral Act amendment to the 2010 Electoral Act. But largely they have retained a lot of those elements. And what INEC is saying is, look, in all of the 119,973 polling units in our country, the card reader must be used in every election. The law permits, the INEC rulebook permits recs and ROs to cancel elections where the card reader is bypassed. And that is why my respect for people like Guinea, my respect for the rec in Sokoto is total. Because in their states, there's nothing like not using the card reader. They cancelled elections in places where the card reader were bypassed. And they defended it before the INEC chairman when they were doing state-by-state release of results or announcement of results. They said, we cancelled election here, cancelled here, because the card reader was not used. That is what the INEC rulebook says. But a lot of the INEC electoral officers are themselves compromised. They get bribed by politicians. They rig elections for politicians. There is someone now who's been remanded in prison custody in Akwa Ibom, an academic, a university don. You know, I've said it that a lot of those university dons, they are worse than ordinary people on the streets in terms of their crooked nature and how they rig elections for politicians. So one of them now has been remanded in prison custody, accused of rigging elections in 2019 in Akwa Ibom. So now they are saying that for the amended Electoral Act, the card reader must be used. And if for any reason the card reader malfunctions, they must deploy another one immediately. If they are unable to deploy another card reader, then the election must be postponed and held within 24 hours.
Indeed.
And when it's held within 24 hours, the card reader must still be used. So they do not envisage a situation in which we'll be filling the incident form, because the incident form is just another way of rigging. The card reader as a means of verifying the authenticity of the voter must be used. It's not the best that we can do, but at this stage, it is important. And INEC is saying that this is what it wants. And the law says the INEC can organize the election in any way that it deems fit. So it's been amended now to allow for electronic voting. So hopefully in future we will have electronic voting in our country, and of course electronic transmission of results from polling units, which is also critical to the success of the governorship election in Ondo and Edo. Is now going to be a part of the law. Absolutely. So for many Nigerians, at least we are getting somewhere. They also talked about the Nigerians in the diaspora also taking part in the election. I don't know how they want to do that, but it's also one of the
in the works.
Yes, suggestions.
And when we look at the aims and objectives of this amendment exercise, according to Honorable Gbajabiamila, the aim is to restore confidence in the system, because there's still a sizable, chunk of Nigerians who have lost, confidence and have developed apathy, to voting as a result of the trends they keep seeing. Yeah,
if we want votes to count, then the card reader is very important, because part of the ways our politicians rig is this ECOMOG style of moving voters from one state to another, or from one location to another. When they are doing registration, a lot of people, they do a lot of registration and get cards that are not, somebody could register 2 or 3 in different locations, and they keep those cards. So they will now have to look for mercenaries to move around to go and vote in those places. The only thing that can stop that is the card reader. And that is why when card reader was introduced, it makes it more efficient, but politicians find a way around it by saying the way they compromise people that are using card reader, they will say the card reader is not working and we have to find other means. If we want to be serious about our elections, we must insist on card reader. We must find a way of making sure that the election must not go on without the card reader. But as important as the card reader is, the electronic transfer of results from polling units is extremely important. The idea of moving results from polling units to the collation centers by hand is fraught to corruption, because between point A and the collation center, anything could happen. Indeed. But when you transfer it electronically and the people are in that collation center, everybody, both the agents and the observers, will know the exact result in that area. So it's not important. It's not possible for you to change. What you are just needing is to bring the physical evidence to the collation center. But already the result cannot be manipulated because it has already been transferred and everybody has agreed on it. So we have to look at those 2 points, because in several parts of the country, what we get, especially areas where you will see millions of votes, is not the will of the people. It's just because it is easy for some people. Yes, they don't use card readers, and then they will now bring ECOMOG voters to just use cards that they've stockpiled before. So it's important, we want the will of the people to matter. The card reader and electronic transfer of results must be adhered to. Right, and let's also bring in, Hadiza to give her take now on this discussion. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, Hadiza, you're live. Please put down the volume of your TV set so we can hear you.
My name is Hadiza, calling from Kaduna.
Welcome. Carry on, please.
Okay. My greeting to Babajida and others.
I greet you, ma.
My TV set is down.
All right, carry on then.
I want to take you back a little bit about your first discussion.
Yeah.
It's about our president. Are we sure that man there is Buhari? That he's not taking any action after the massacre of Maiduguri? Is it fair?
These I don't go into that. Is our president Some of us have known him for years, and he's that president. Forget the rubbish that people are saying, that somebody from Sudan is absolute rubbish. That's absolute rubbish. You know, it's the height of idiocy to suddenly imagine that the president was cloned. And we have said it repeatedly. If we can successfully clone a president, then Nigeria should be the center of medical research in the world.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Because even to do that will take some time. But if we can do it in record time, then the Americans who are going to space and the Russians and the Israelis, they should all come to Nigeria to come and learn from.
Flights,
I mean, it's thoroughly idiotic to think like this, to imagine that the person in Aso Rock is not the president, and we shouldn't be joining people in saying this, because it makes no sense. If the president is wrong, we'll criticize him. But to deceive ourselves that it's not the one that is there, we will never join people in saying that.
All right, Adisa, I hope that point has been well addressed and you are left with no doubts. But let's go back to the discussion at hand in enhancing our electoral process in the country ahead of future elections and even the irregular cycle of elections. Okay, looking at these proposed spending limits from those who are contesting for the office of president down to those who are contesting for chairman and councillorship, you know, what do you make about it? From the 1 billion, it comes down and stops at 5 million, you know, for those interested in councillorship.
Let me just say something briefly about still on the card reader before I answer that question. You see, in the last few elections, we've been progressively refusing to use the card reader. And that's to show to you how crooked our politicians are, how desperate to rig our politicians are. Our politicians don't think that they should secure the mandate of the people. They prefer to use the barrel of the gun to win elections. So they would rather not let the card reader be used. And with their agents in the INEC, this usually happens. In 2015, we achieved 54% use of the card reader. 2019, 19% use of the card reader. I mean, this is very shameful. In 2020, 16% use of the card reader. If it goes on like this, at a point they will put the card reader aside completely. In the Bayelsa governorship election, as well as the Kogi governorship election, they didn't use the card reader. They didn't use the card reader. They should provide proof that they use the card reader.
Kindly hold that thought. Let's quickly bring in Ailiru from Agungu. Thank you very much and welcome. Carry on, please.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ailiru.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, Kabi, the Kaba.
I think the problem of Nigeria is quite alarming. I would like to bring you back to the first topic. Well, I think people that are with President Muhammadu Buhari are the people misleading him.
Yeah.
People like, sorry to say, people like Malami need to be cautioned. At least we have elders in Nigeria. They should call him to order and also call Mr. President to order. At least. He's not like the person we know. And he's not the one that we feel we voted for. He has changed completely. The issue of insecurity is becoming rampant, even here around in our country, which is very unfortunate. So that's my contribution.
Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Back to the body language as to the take of politicians on the use of card readers. VQ.
Yes, I'm saying that we are progressively refused to use it. That's why I said 2015, 54%, 2019, 19%, 2020, 16%. And if we allow this trend to continue, a time will come when you won't even record 5% use of the card reader. Because people now think that we don't even need to use it.
Because it would stop them from rigging.
It will stop them from rigging.
Yes.
Because it's the electronic means of accreditation. You know? This is the card reader that is best for us for now.
This in
they
addition
used
to
it in
other
Kenya, it's successful.
Digitization, you know, of the entire system.
Yes, because you must first establish that the person who wants to vote is qualified to vote.
Yeah.
Double registration goes on in our country. You see a lot of, except INEC cleans up the voters register, a lot of the people on the voters register do not exist. But you can't do a thorough cleanup except you go to state by state, you know. So that's why you see a huge number of people register to vote, but in the end, how many people show?
More than half.
Yes, a lot of them don't exist. It's in our country that you see on the voters register, you see Mike Tyson on the voters register. Mike Tyson, who is in the US. You know, our people who have died, Ayobabalola, all these revered clerics, they put their names. So this is the thing. Now, talking about the
spending limit, you know,
yes,
how valid is that in our system?
You and I know that nobody will comply with this. Nobody. And I don't think INEC has the capacity to not just monitor, but to ensure that they bring offenders to book. What are you going to do, for example, to a president who exceeds the spending limit of 5 billion in campaigning? What are you going to do? You lock him up, or you disqualify him from contesting the election? What if it's the incumbent? So these things are difficult to really enforce. Then governorship, they are saying that for the governorship election, the spending limit for campaign should be 1 billion. Any governor who wants to contest, especially if it's a big state like Lagos, Rivers, if you tell them to spend just 1 billion, they are not going to agree with you. They will simply look at it as just something put on paper. They will not obey. And for senatorial contest, 100 million. What they spend on bribing party leaders alone to give them tickets is even more than what you are talking about. I remember a House of Reps member who was denied a ticket after party leaders had collected money from him. So he reported them to EFCC. What was recovered was more than this. That's just simply to bribe. We are not talking about campaign, jingles, all of the money, what to give people when you are taking them to campaign ground. Because you see people, they put them in buses, they are going to campaign. They give them money.
Yeah, they have to mobilize.
They'll give them, before they even get into those buses, they first give like 1,000. And then at the end of the thing, they also give them money. So it's expensive to contest elections in our country. You see House of Reps that they should spend 70 million. They are not going to listen to you. State Assembly that they should spend 30 million. Area councils, 30 million. Councillorship, 5 million. You know? It's not, these are just, they're in theory, but
not practical.
They are not practicable in my view.
But is that part of, you know, the need to sanitize the system? Do you see INEC as coming from that, you know, us needing to understand where INEC is coming from and why it needs to now regulate? If, of course, we talk about the issue of, you know, non-enforcement, but, you know, why that should even be proposed? I'm talking about, you know, the proponents of this now.
Because that is desirable. It does not mean it's doable. Even in America, we have this kind of laws too, but nobody obeys it. Because you cannot really monitor a lot of things. Spending of people, you cannot monitor it. Because a lot of these things are done in cash. So it doesn't even pass through the banking system. So for you to monitor it is very difficult. The only one that I would look at, which I can understand, because most of these political parties put high premium on their forms to be able to raise funds from members who want to contest election. So we have to find a way of reducing the cost of obtaining this form, the expression of interest form. Because if you are not rich, or you have people who are ready to back you up, then a lot of people will not be in a position to even contest or offer themselves for service. So we can look at that. But that has to do with political parties. And political parties have the right to determine what they want to do within their party. You understand? But that is what we should look at. But to say we want to reduce spending in terms of campaign spending, it is not possible. It didn't work in America where we copied it. It cannot work here. Because like I said, you cannot really monitor what people are spending. You know, when you want to become president, whether we like it or not, in this part of the world, you have to mobilize, in quote, which is more or less bribing delegates. And sometimes some delegates collect as high as $10,000 or more.
Yes.
You understand? Yes, $10,000
so you have to speak their language.
You have to speak their language. And when you calculate all these things, it runs into several billions of dollars. That is why you cannot just wake up, no matter how brilliant you are, I want to become president. There must be an interest group, or there must be a party, a strong party, or some people want to share your center of interest to be behind you. And then they will now go and mobilize the funds for you to be able to do those things. So it cannot, it's good, it's desirable, but it can't work.
Good old Nigerian politics. Well, we'll see how it all goes. Talking about, you know, the amendment process, we'll continue to monitor it all and bring you fresh perspectives on all sides. But then let's look and turn our attention to the economy, Forex specifically, where the crisis is worsening in Nigeria. Business owners are in dire straits. Manufacturers and businesses are also relying more on unofficial foreign exchange market as a way out. Business leaders and investors are also lamenting that supply from the official source is now below 23% of the total foreign exchange requirement. Most times that number is even as low as 12%. Still on, you know, the volatility of the market. BKO, what's your perspective on this?
You see, as I've always said on this program, we have no choice. We've got to produce. That is the solution to the problem that we are facing currently. If we do not produce, we must produce for export. That's how we can earn foreign exchange. If we do not produce, we cannot earn foreign exchange. And a lot of the things that we do not need are coming into our country. You see the South Africans coming to sell eggs in our country, whereas there are some farms in our country that can produce more than 600,000 eggs in one day. So we have the capacity to produce enough eggs. So why should people bring in foreign eggs to our country to sell? But the problem for a lot of those people is the cost of the locally produced egg would actually be higher than the foreign ones. With the kind of problems that we have, a situation in which people can't have access to foreign exchange to buy raw materials, that will definitely drive up the cost of doing the business. And in order to survive, they will factor this into the cost price for those items that they are selling. So in the end, we are unable to sell at a very competitive price. Because look, even textiles, we produce textiles in our country, is going to be a lot more expensive than what they bring in from China, because of some of the problems that we are talking about. At the time when the current CBN governor took over as CBN governor, the naira was exchanging to the dollar at 165 to the dollar. We are now in the region of 485 to 500. There were occasions when it even marginally went above 500. So all of the measures that he has taken, those measures are not working because there is no substitute to production. There's just no substitute. We watched more than 600 companies in Nigeria go under. Some of them now have become churches. The warehouses where those companies used to produce have become churches. A lot of the assembly plants that we had here, they've gone. Before our very eyes, we saw Michelin leave our country and relocate to Ghana. As we speak, even Nestle is threatening to relocate to Ghana. There's no way that all of these things will be happening and we will think that we won't think that there won't be consequences. There will be consequences.
Indeed.
There will be consequences for lack of production. There will be consequences for extreme consumption of even things that we don't need coming from abroad. I appreciate the president for one thing. He made up his mind that we should eat what we kill, which is like saying, okay, rice production. We can produce rice in abundance here. I'm not going to set aside money to import rice into our country because Nigeria was the highest importer of rice and highest importer of the dollar. So the president said, no, I'm not going to set aside money for this. Yes, it was still coming in through the land borders. Importation of rice through the land borders, he banned. But smugglers will still find a way to bring in rice because the imported rice is a lot cheaper than our own rice. Even at the border, you can still get the imported rice for between 6 to 7 or 8,000. But our own rice, the locally produced rice, because the cost of production and everything, when you put the cost of production and everything together, in some cases it's about 30,000 or more. So it can't compete against the foreign rice. If we begin to use technology liberally in rice production, the way they do in Malaysia, the way they do in Thailand and China, the level of production yield per hectare, the level of production per hectare will go up. And when it goes up, it means that the farmer can earn more. It also means that using the economies of scale, the farmer can produce more at lesser cost.
Indeed, the more you produce.
Yes. So, but we are still largely not using technology as a means of producing rice. So the solution is very clear.
So before
you go into production, the government must do its best.
Absolutely.
Do its best to energize the production sector.
Okay, which is
all kinds of incentives. But if we can't do that, because in those years when we were talking about those years when our currency was strong, we were exporting cocoa, we were exporting coffee, we were exporting groundnut. The place where they used to have the groundnut pyramids in Kano, please go there today and see whether a single grain of groundnut is there. Absolutely. In fact, they've turned it to a place where they sell second-hand cars.
Indeed, the impact is rather enormous. The industries, line fallow, many of them line fallow are a testament, and the fact that we're even having production companies, transferring their market, going to China to even, produce on account of the high cost of production here in Nigeria. But looking at the intervention of the CBN into the market to beat hoarding and other vices by black market operators largely, how do you weigh the pumping of dollars into the market and other interventions that the CBN has done so far?
Let me start by saying that I believe that the problem with the Nigerian currency has to do with the governor of central bank and the policies of the central bank. The value of any currency is the reflection of the state of your economy. And I feel embarrassed that 500 naira we exchange for $1. But that will probably be the worst in the continent of Africa. And it's because we have a governor of central bank who, with all respect to him, I think his fiscal policy is defective. One, he allowed people, he used foreign exchange in a larger part of his regime. It's the first time before he was given the second term. He used the foreign exchange to satisfy people. Because even the former governor of central bank, the former emir, complained about it at a time to say when you have two windows, one official, one unofficial, and you allocate dollars in millions to people who the only thing they are producing is just briefcase companies, and you award millions of dollars to them, it is easy for them to make millions by just taking that money and selling it in the black market, which is ridiculous, and he did it, he believed in that. That is problem number one. Problem number two is that if we don't, like he said, in the industries, we have to find a way of bringing back the industries, because we don't produce anything in Nigeria. Most things, we don't produce most things, apart from some few companies that are doing well. Most of the other companies, we used to have a lot of companies producing things. So when you produce, there is no need for you to source for foreign exchange to pay for something that you have. You need foreign exchange to pay for what you are bringing in. And in Nigeria, we bring in all kinds of things. All kinds of things. So when you don't do that, and the companies are, because the production, the environment where production is not favorable in Nigeria, a lot of companies could not survive, and they have to move away. Because in Nigeria, you have to generate your own electricity, you have to have a lot of government officials, there are no proper infrastructures, the tax regime is not favorable. So there are so many things that will make you make your business be favorable. And when you don't produce, and you have these elites who have this knack for foreign things, you have to pay for those things. And so that is another one. Another problem is the central bank decisions and policies.
Okay. Okay. Mayor, let me put you on hold. If you can join us for the rest of the program, join us hangout on TVC News. Please stay with us.
"2020, a year that began with lots of promises, soon witnessed a wind of pandemic blow through, bringing along health emergency not seen in decades, and the demand for accountability turned dramatic.
She's right. Like me, I was a member like you.
The hunted takes on arm as the hunter. Police reform over the years has been cosmetic, but not anymore. The people say no to brutality by the force. Bandits on route in some parts of the country as houses of horror are unsealed. After 12 months, the year is ending as one that would not be forgotten in a haste. Stay with TVC News for specials and deep analysis of the events that defined 2020. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Thank you very much for joining us again on Journalist Hangout. We are still on discussions regarding the forex crisis still ensuing in the Nigerian economy and how it has, badly battered the naira. What options do manufacturers have, as well as investors, to get profit, and at the same time the impact of this, on consumers like ourselves, of course. Well, BKO, you've talked about, beefing production. Some would say it seems like a long-term plan, how we can make the production climate in Nigeria, more favorable for manufacturers. For you now, what's the way out, beyond this issue of revamping, production? Yes,
we also must try our best to attract investors to our country. And it's one of the reasons why we need to do something about the security in our country. We've got to encourage big automobile companies, for example, to come and open shop in Nigeria. If you bring Toyota, for example, to this place to open a plant here, because I know that they have a plant in South Africa. We come to Nigeria, open a plant, many people will be employed, and some of the money we spend importing Toyota models into our country will not be spent on forex. So we just have to do our best. Let the business environment be friendly. Let it be such that production can be encouraged. For example, the Ghanaians came up with the idea of saying, oh, if you are going to import raw materials for production, then it's zero duty. Nothing stops us from doing such a thing. It will stimulate business in our country, to stimulate production, and a lot of the businesses that are gasping for bread at this time, they will get a shot in the arm, and they will be roused back to life, literally speaking. So this is the thing. Government has the responsibility to make the business climate more favorable for all the players in that sector. Once we are able to do that, then we won't have this problem. One thing that has compounded our problem is the massive importation of refined crude. Because when our refineries were working, we have refineries with about 450,000 in stock capacity, not refining a liter. A whole year not refining a liter. We now spend huge foreign exchange to bring in refined products. That's why we have the problem that we have. Because we shouldn't be spending that quantum of foreign exchange importing a product that it has pleased God to give us in abundance. We are one of the highest, biggest producers of crude oil in the world. But we import refined crude oil. We import petrol. Whereas you see a country like what was it called? Saudi Arabia, dedicating some refineries. Saudi Arabia delivered 2 new refineries of about 400,000 barrels a day, just recently. 2 new refineries. They want to show that both in terms of export of refined crude oil and export of crude oil itself, that they are the #1 in the world. So they are maintaining that leadership position. We have not been able to build, the state, that's the Nigerian state, has not been able to build a single refinery since the dawn of democracy in 1999. But during that time, just Google it and see the refineries that the Saudis have delivered and the size of those refineries.
And of course, the reserves, the foreign reserves, are also not in good shape at the moment. Some have also said, okay, the number of, not forgetting COVID-19 and its impact, of course, on oil pricing and all that. But when one also looks at, Vicky also talked about that though. He said, people who get to travel. A report even said about that more than $35 billion, have been, at the disposal of people who have traveled over the past 5 years, just to show you, what manufacturers are also having to contend with, in the Nigerian society, basically. But what do you make of that now? How that we may not have had as much travelers into the country as we've had those who are leaving the country, for various reasons to travel.
Yes, because tourism is a major area of foreign exchange in most countries. Dubai, one of the 7 Emirates in UAE, depends only on tourism, and this is something that was built out of a desert, and they earn a lot of foreign exchange from it. But if you don't sell your country, if your security situation is dire, if people do not see any reason to want to explore your country, why should they come? We are not making the kind of money we should make on tourism. Kenya is making so much money on tourism, but we are not doing enough when it comes to tourism. So the input that's supposed to bring foreign exchange is not coming in. But I want us to look at remittances from the members of the diaspora, Nigerians in diaspora. You see, in a lot of countries, most countries depend on, especially in Asia and Africa, depends on proceeds from their citizens who live abroad, who earn well, who save, and who remit money back home. And that has to do with the policies. So that's why I said a lot of them rely on the policies, on the fiscal policies of the central bank, because the kind of money that we should. Because when you look, especially in European countries and America, there are a lot of Nigerians with well-paying jobs. We should be able to have more. We should be able, that part of Nigerians in diaspora should be a major source of foreign exchange for us. If we do the needful and we do the right things, we are supposed to earn more foreign exchange from Nigerians and diaspora than oil.
That's why he said. That's why the CBN governor said that the banks should not open Naira ledger accounts. You know, for in terms of diaspora remittances, because he wants people to be able to access forex easily. So he then said, look, if they're sending in dollars, don't open Naira ledger account for. They should just go ahead and open domiciliary account for those people. But it will only work for a short while. It's not sustainable. Just as a lot of the policies that he has come up with, even that one is not sustainable. Banks are also into speculation. They are part of the problem. Many times, if you have dollars, with the bank, you want to access your dollars, they tell you that they can't find dollars for you, and you need it desperately. They are the same people who tell you that, but there is a Malam somewhere who can buy it.
Let me call Alaji Dogo for you.
You can imagine. So if you are desperate, you are going to agree with them and say, okay, bring that Malam in, let me do business with him. That's the unofficial rates. You lose money in the process, but they make money. So for someone like Mefele, who was in Zenith Bank for 18 years, he knows what his colleagues do. He knows that even some of the policies that he's coming up with, a lot of his colleagues are frustrating those policies. I've heard them announce that they are going to stop this bank from doing this, but after a while, you just see clearly that it's audio punishment that the banks were given.
Right. There's so many angles, to look at. If one, needs to a quick fix now to the crisis on our hands, but we just must move on. And
that's what is even the airlines. We're in trouble with the airlines now.
Yeah.
I sent a two-man crew to Maiduguri for their return ticket. It cost us 410,000 naira. Two persons. One will drop down in what's it called, Abuja. The other one coming to Lagos. Two persons, 410,000 naira, because the banks can't find forex. I mean, the airlines can't find forex, and nearly everything they do is forex based.
Indeed, the aviation sector is particularly hit. Absolutely, I agree. But the loss of a military general, in whatever circumstances, is considered a calamity, and the annual Chief of Army Staff Conference has been cancelled. This over the death of a major general who died from COVID-19 complications. In a statement, the acting director of Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Sagir Musa, said the cancellation was due to the resurgence of COVID-19 pandemic in Abuja, and he said all the participants have now been mandated to immediately proceed on self-isolation in line with the federal government's protocols for COVID-19. Is there a fire on the mountain? We seem to have this, on our hands. Of course, many countries abroad are battling with another resurgence of COVID-19, and Nigeria, we've been so blessed. But what do you make of, this army situation?
Of course, that's fair on mountain. We know that that COVID is still very much around. It's just that in a typical way of doing things, we just pray and wish that God will protect us.
Absolutely.
You understand? That's the way we do things. But of course, COVID, because Nigeria cannot be in isolation. If there is a second wave in Europe and America, and a lot of people from Europe and America are coming in every time, and a lot of people are traveling from Nigeria to those places, of course, you will have cases. But it's just that, yes, maybe because the symptoms of COVID has a lot to do with malaria, and malaria in those things, and because we are used to that, it's not as serious as it is in America or in Europe. But that does not change the fact that it's here. The only difference is that we don't do a lot of testing. We don't do a lot of testing. In fact, I'm sure that a lot of states are not doing testing at all. Apart from Lagos, maybe Abuja and some few places, a lot of people are not testing. So we cannot really determine those who have COVID or not. And like I said, because of our system getting used to a lot of things, a lot of people will get the COVID, treat themselves for malaria or typhoid or whatever and get better. So it's important for us to follow the protocols, the COVID-19 protocols. It's important for us to know that we are not out of the woods yet, though there is light in the end of the tunnel, because by the time the vaccine has started, and by the time we move on, maybe January, February, March, we will be able to immunize a lot of people, and then the health thing can come in, and then we can develop immunity against it. But right now, it's important for us to be careful, to do the needful, to know that these things still exist, because the only difference is that there is a reduction in high-profile cases. Unlike the first wave. You know, in the first wave, it was easy for you to hear that this governor had died, or the chief of staff had died, or this senator had died. So then people were scared, but now, because they're not hearing a lot of stories of people, we're beginning to relax as if nothing has happened. Of course, COVID-19 is still very much with us. And this incident is just a wake-up call. The death of the general, because this is somebody that is involved in a conference and mixed with a lot of people within that conference, and they're now asking everybody, yes, and they're asking everybody now to self-isolate. So it's just a wake-up call to tell us that, look, there's a top Nigerian that died recently, a billionaire, that was said it was through the complications of COVID-19. So it's still very much with us. We just have to be careful. And this is a wake-up call to tell us that, look, don't think that we are out of the woods yet. COVID-19 is still very much with us.
But it also, gives one, reason to wonder the considerations the army had before even holding such a high-profile conference as this. And like it has been noted, the said general could have been mingling, but the conference had started and then he took ill, and the unfortunate happened. What is your take on this, BQ?
I feel really sad because he was my senior in secondary school.
Okay, the general?
Yes, and a fantastic army officer.
Wow, my condolences.
Anybody who knows General Louis Refin will tell you that he was such a fantastic and very professional army officer. He was in Lagos as GOC 81 Division before he was transferred to take charge as GOC 6th Division with headquarters in Port Harcourt, in charge of the land component of the Operation Delta Safe. So his debt is a debt that we all owe. Everyone will pay that debt, whether we like it or not. We are going to meet our maker. We've lost him, and we've lost him in painful circumstances because he just recently buried his mother. Oh. And you see there's a lot of panic about what has happened because many officers were at the conference, the Chief of Army Staff Conference. Many officers, including GOCs and staff officers, attended his mother's funeral. Oh. So at this point, we can only advise all the soldiers concerned to self-isolate, not underrate this disease, because it's still killing people. Just that a lot of those cases don't get reported. It's still killing people, and everyone should know that we are not out of the woods yet. We are behaving like it no longer exists. Even people in government who are not helping matters, a lot of them still behave like this thing is a thing of the past, but that's not true. And in other countries of the world, caution is still the word, because they know that this thing has not gone. Yet it may have gone down, but even if you look at the cases we've been recording in the last 4 or 5 days, you've got to be worried. 500, 470, 500, For a long time, we weren't getting that number of cases. And FCT is regularly in the news for this infection. That means the second wave of infection that we are talking about, that's the officer, that's my senior in the secondary school. He's from the same hometown as Dino Milaye.
Oh, okay.
From Aitoru, a fantastic officer. I can only
imagine.
Wish him a pleasant experience in the bosom of the Lord, because the thing is, great officers don't always last. You know, he worked in Damboa. He served in the Northeast, and he worked in Damboa.
Before coming to Lagos?
Yes, not immediately. He was also an instructor at Jaji. I'm saying that he once served at Damboa in Borno State, and if you can successfully work in Damboa, because that's clearly now the most dangerous part of Borno State at this time. Most of the ambushes, the killing of soldiers have happened in Damboa. Damboa and the places they call the Timbuktu Triangle. All of those areas, Ajigi, Alagarno, where they just killed soldiers a few days back. Soldiers went to Alagarno. Alagarno is the religious headquarters of Boko Haram. It's their spiritual headquarters. And our soldiers wanted to dislodge them from there, but they repelled the attempt to dislodge them, and they killed some soldiers and took one prisoner. So it's still a dangerous war that we're involved in, but we need our soldiers to be safe from Boko Haram, I mean from even COVID-19, so that they can be focused on their main mission, which is to defeat banditry and defeat Boko Haram. So our condolences to the Chief of Army Staff, who has lost an exemplary officer. And he said some very nice things about the Chief of Army Staff the last time we spoke, that they had disagreements, but he never thought that the Chief of Army Staff could make him a GOC. So that says something about the true nature of General Tukur Yusuf Buratai, that someone that you had a disagreement with, public disagreement, you still consider them good enough to be GOC. So that says something very good about the Chief of Army Staff, and I thank him for this.
Vicky, once again, I accept our condolences. The much you've said, speaks a lot to the relationship between you and the late
General
Irefe, indeed. Well, may his soul rest in peace. But the circumstances, of course, like has been established on this table, also calls for even more concern, looking at the body language of many Nigerians to the realities of COVID-19. I mean, this is yet another case now, and especially we are even entering into the festive season, and we as people that we love to celebrate and all that, but of course we have to be very circumspect. Let me bring in Ali, who's joining us from Lagos here. Welcome to the discussions. Please join in.
Your in-law.
Dan Jos kenan. Alina yara kenan ko?
Kwarai.
Allah taimaka.
Baba Jide, good evening, sir.
Good evening, I greet you.
Yeah, Auntie Kemi, good evening.
Welcome.
Yeah, Uncle Mayor, good evening.
Please involve us now in your discussion. Carry us all along.
That's why she's saying.
I don't really have anything to say. I just want to say you guys are doing a great job. God bless journalists and God bless Baba Jide. God bless Ayo, wherever he is. God bless you all.
Thank you.
God bless you.
I want to say hello to Trump.
Baba Jide,
okay, bye, Dama.
Thank you so much. God bless you too. But looking about the extra need for caution as to the realities of COVID-19, I mean, of course, the warnings can.
I'm just confused about what we can do.
It has to do with the state of our economy.
I can imagine.
When we had a lockdown, when we had the lockdown, a lot of people could not earn their living, could not work. A lot of people in Nigeria earn daily living. A lot of people could not run their businesses, especially people that has to do with entertainment.
Absolutely, and it became such a case.
So by the time the government started started to open up the economy. Yes. The people, because they have to survive, they don't want to. Now, you know, at the initial stage, during the beginning of the lockdown, people were scared. And because there were deaths everywhere, people were scared. By the time we came out of the lockdown and we eased the restrictions, people don't want to go back. Like I said, we have this nature of God will protect us. God will protect us. So that because when I look around, people are not bothered anymore. You know, they are not bothered anymore. But we have to be careful, because until we have to wait a little. Let us make sacrifices for some months. You understand? So that when the vaccines go around, then we can go back to the way we used to live. We cannot go back to where we used to live.
And they said the vaccine won't come into Nigeria until January.
Until January,
that's what Kojo were.
Yes, in fact, we are lucky that it's going to get here by January. We are lucky that it's going to get here by January. It shows the standing of Nigeria in the Committee of Nations, because everybody wants it. You have to pay for it. America, for example, ordered 100 million doses. They want more. Now, Pfizer said, we can't give you because we have commitments to other people. You understand? So for Nigeria to be able to be part of it in January, that's good. But by the time you have the 2 shots in January, you understand, because it's 2 shots of 2 weeks apart. So by February, March, yes, we will be in a better position. So we have to,
but not yet.
Yes, we have to make sacrifices, because if we ignore it, it's still deadly. It's still there. It's just that we don't do a lot of testing, and people is not in the front burner like it used to be. And then a lot of states have run out of money. So they don't want to.
It's very costly to manage it.
It's very expensive. So a lot of states have run out of money. You see now, most of the isolation centers have been closed and all that. So
at a point, they were even asking people to treat themselves at home, except for very serious cases.
As a friend of mine who was in an isolation center, and he said, "Jide, government is spending money on fighting this thing, or that if it can be that you can enjoy the way you enjoy there." That I should know that it's expensive to manage this thing. But they took very good care of them. They had good meals and all that. And once you are in the isolation center, you become the property of government. Indeed. Government has to take care of you, and that's why some state governors are reluctant to allow testing to take place, because of they're already looking at the cost of taking care of people. Yes, so they will now be deceiving themselves that there is no COVID in their state.
In that state, which is a joke.
It's a joke. A joke taken too far. A joke that has no basis in science for people who are educated. How can something that came all the way from China is already gone through the whole world, around the whole world? You are now saying your own country is insulated, and you are surrounded by some states that have a heavy burden of the thing. So it's unfortunate. We just hope that this whole thing will come to an end soon, and we can have our lives back. Because for our people who are already going to clubs, we are already going to churches and dancing
and parties.
And parties.
Now, parties
you know, during his sister's birthday, we couldn't do party. For a socialite like him, who goes to people's parties,
that's why
we couldn't do his birthday, and there was no attempt to postpone it, because we are not sure of when it will be safe to even do it.
And it was even funny. It was funny but strange. Sorry, BKO, you know how many of us, you know, worked during the lockdown, but those who were not, who were locked up at home or locked down at home, you know, heaved a sigh of relief that they were, you know, back, that the government had reopened, you know, many places.
That's why I told you, can't even reconsider locking up again. Not in our kind of country.
No, we can't. We can't afford it. The economy is so fragile for us to do
our own system.
In fact, people will not even obey. That's the reality.
We just have to take personal charge of our affairs.
Yes.
Everyone knows what he needs to do to stay safe. Maybe from tomorrow now, I'll be wearing my mask everywhere I go, so that this coronavirus will not visit me.
It's been the year has really, you know, we've had
it's a terrible year.
We've
Too many.
Yeah, it's been terrible.
And we're all looking forward to the
end.
next few weeks left in 2020.
Lost too many people close to me.
Indeed. Indeed. Well, it has all been said. Let's just take our own personal steps to ensure that we keep ourselves and others around us safe. Indeed. That's our 7 for you on Journalist Hangout today. Don't forget to join us again tomorrow for the Friday edition of the program. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. From all of us here, thanks a lot for watching. I'm Kemi Folademo. Bye for now. God bless Nigeria.